Hi, this is Leland Sklar. I'm a bass player who's been touring and recording for the past half century, and you are watching FaceTime with Todd Wharton, my favorite show.
So you ever notice that there's 6 million ways to say hi? Can't we just choose one?
Hey, what's up, man?
What's happening?
Hey, hot lady, what's going on?
はじめまして。
What's up?
Long time no see. How are you doing?
What's up, fam?
Well, we might as well add one more. Here's the cheerleading greeting. What up, my Y? What up, my O? What up, my U? What up, my S? What up, my T? What up, my U? What up, my P? What up, my I? What up, my D? What's that spell?
You're stupid!
Yes, I am. We'll be right back with Leland Sklar. Welcome back to the show, everyone. So my guest tonight is a world-renowned bassist. You've seen him on stage with people like Phil Collins, Linda Rondstadt, James Taylor, Jackson Browne, and so on and so on. But you know what? Let's take a look at the clip.
Would you welcome, please, the young man that was actually clean-shaven when we started doing all these introductions, on the bass guitar, Leland Sklar.
Please welcome to the show, Leland Sklar.
I'm doing great, Tom, man. I'm so pleased to be here with you. This is great, man. I look forward to this evening.
Thank you, thank you. Isn't technology great? Now people could do interviews. And I mean, obviously being in the studio is so much better, obviously, but technology is allowing people now not to miss a beat. Like all the shows from Jimmy Fallon or, Kelly and Ryan, they're able to now really consistently promote people and never have no shows or anything. And I think it's kind of amazing. So I want to talk about, we'll talk about a little of your history, but I'm always intrigued about what the people are doing now. Because a lot of people don't talk about today. They always want to know about the past, and we could talk about that. But today, what you're doing is also very important. If you see me interview, CJ Ramone and John Amos and all these other greats, a lot of people are doing a lot of great things today. So right now, music has, like the restaurant industry, is taking a hit. Like everybody, but majorly, music has really majorly taken a hit. Now, for you, being a bassist and you're touring and working with so many groups, how has this affected your music when COVID hit?
Well, I mean, it was like for everybody else, it was totally shocking when all of this went down. The last live gig I had played was, we did a thing called the Rock Legends Cruise with our band, but with Roger Daltrey and Nancy Wilson from Heart and all kinds of people were on this, and it was one of these Fort Lauderdale to the Grand Cayman kind of things. So we got back from that, and that's when COVID hit, and all of a sudden, all the work for the rest of the year just evaporated instantly. And I found myself just kind of sitting there. I'm not a person that sits around, and I kind of went, "This is really weird." I mean, I've never not had an empty book, and all of a sudden, it was empty. So I really kind of sat down and started looking at my options, and I've actually had the busiest year and a half I've ever had. Now, I haven't monetized most of it, but it's been unbelievably creative and busy, and for that I'm really grateful. And and like you said, the technologies and things that exist now have allowed me to do things that I really would have never even considered, but all because I was busy. And all of a sudden now I wasn't busy, and I started to take advantage of these things. And I've had there's a certain guilt to it, because I know I've had friends die during this period. So people suffering, losing homes, businesses and everything. So I don't want to be blasé about it, but on a personal level, it's been a pretty fertile period to find alternative things to do. Plan B really turned into Plan A. At this point.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're bringing that all out. You found yourself, you had to rebrand yourself, correct? Yeah. And I keep telling you, this has nothing to do with age. Like, you've been around the block for a long time, but COVID really taught us that, okay, we have to, it's kind of like we were reborn, and we have to step into a new generation. So you're talking about a lot. How did you rebrand yourself to structure yourself around adapting to the new world?
Yeah, well, the one of the first things that happened was, for years, by accident, I've been taking pictures basically of people flipping me off. And I have over 12,000 photographs of everybody you can imagine. From, as a New Yorker, I've got Bernie Williams from the Yankees. I've got, Charlie Watts and Jeff Beck and Phil Collins and James Taylor and you name it. I've got, but I also have the man and the woman on the streets. So I was at a function and I met a guy there who does he's not a publisher, but it's a high-end art company. And we started talking and I said, yeah, I've been bugged about maybe doing a book and for years, but he said, do it. Let's do it. And I've got a book out called Everybody Loves Me, and it's got 6,000 photographs of people flipping me off in it. So I've done that. And so far, I mean, I've been doing it all myself. I'm self-published and all that. But I've managed so far to, I've sold about 3,000 books just out of the house thing. So that was one thing. We finished just before pandemic, Phil Collins's last tour, which was called the Not Dead Yet tour.
Yeah.
Now I had some guys writing to me going, man, we saw you guys. So you were like in these big stadiums, and it was hard to really discern detail in like the bass parts and things, which I come to expect in that situation. So I thought, what the hell? I had our front of house guys send me one of the shows. I put it in my laptop, and I just decided to go from the first song of the show through the last song of the show, do one a day. But it was so cheesy. I had the music in my laptop. I had my phone on a selfie stick, C-clamped to a drawer, and a little Bose speaker and a bass amp. And what I did was I mixed it so the bass was a little bit louder than the track. Yeah. Then I recorded that and put that up. By the third day, the third song, I had people writing going, man, we love your YouTube channel. And I'm going, what are you talking about? I had no idea I was creating a channel. And I just kept up every day. And at this point, I've put up a video, at least one video a day, every single day since March of last year. So I have about 660 some videos up. And it's all, I'm either playing along with songs I've worked on. Every single video is something, 99.5% is stuff I've played on. So I'm showing bass parts to all like Carole King songs and Hall & Oates and all that. And I've got 166,000 people on the channel. And I'm doing a twice a month live stream. I just finished it before this show. I do a 2-hour live stream with a clubhouse. And so that happened. Then within the book site, I've ended up doing T-shirts that have my beard on them. And I also was a graphic artist. So I have art for sale. Then I had people writing to me going, could you put some bass parts on some tracks for us? And I went, man, I'd love to, but I've never recorded at home before. I've always lived in the studio. And when somebody would usually ask that, I would go to a friend's house who had a home studio. We'd throw the bass on and then go eat pizza or something. You know, it was a social life. So I found myself locked down and I couldn't go to anybody's houses. So a friend of mine knew somebody at Solid State Logic, and they ended up sending me a SSL 2+ interface. And now I've done like a ton of albums from home with people. I've got one I'm going to be working on tonight, but people I know in New Zealand and Germany, and working on a project with a guy from Ireland. And then on top of that is our band, The Immediate Family. And we've got our new album is coming out on the 27th of this month. Denny Tedesco, who did the Wrecking Crew movie, is filming a documentary movie about us, and that's in editing mode. So, man, it's been hellaciously busy. But it's all been... Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was about to mention, I actually went on to YouTube, and I love it. You have a lot of people on here right now just absolutely praising all your videos, and they're amazing. And I see Eileen is on here right now, and I'm going to say it again. I feel like Eileen. I was telling Leland she's gonna kick my ass everywhere because she's starting to realize how much of a pain in the ass I am because I'm anal at what I do and I'm a perfectionist. And she's starting to know that. I think one of the reasons why me and her butt heads because she's perfectionist also.
Yeah.
But we don't. But when I don't give the drama out because I hate drama, but I give it for some reason, I think she realized, and I do too. We're kind of like the same person. We just work hard and we find a cohesive agreement. I love her. I just want to pick her up sometimes and give her a big hug. But she's always wearing that shiny shirt, so it's gonna glare in my eyes. It's gonna be like, yo, can't see.
Eileen is a force of nature.
Yeah, she is.
No, they didn't break the mold when they did her. They did her freehand.
I'm waiting for her to comment to be like, Todd, I'm going to flip you up like we did in Leland's book. And by the way, I did see your book, Scott Page from Pink Floyd. I believe it was him. I believe it was the interview I did with him. I think he showed me the book. And he was going through some of the pages, and I'm like, wait, is that real? He's like, yeah, check this out. This is awesome.
It's deep. It's really deep, and it's things like when I was working with Barry Manilow, and I got Barry, and he gets a real coy kind of a little cute finger. And I go, come on, Barry, you can do better than that. He puts on these wraparound sunglasses. He looks like a child killer. It's like everybody, man, it's really been fun. Doing this project. It's been a lot of work, but the end result is I've got people all over the world sending me pictures of the things sitting on their coffee table. And at this point, the hard part's been doing this all during COVID because I can't do any in-store signings. I can't really go out and promote it all. So it's really been pretty much through like my website and all that. So it's once things theoretically open up, but at this point it's so scary because every step we take forward we seem to slide two back.
That's right.
And gigs that were coming up are now being postponed again till next year. I was just supposed to go down to Houston and do a thing, and I don't want to go to Texas right now. It's just it's your life isn't worth it. I've had my shots and I'm not that concerned about me. But I don't want to see anybody else get sick because of maybe something I've done. So I'm still pretty much laying low, and but it's such a staggeringly bizarre period in our history. None of us have lived through this kind of a thing. Certainly, when they talk about the pandemics of the early 20th century, very few of us would know about that. But it's scary.
Yeah. It is scary. You know what it is? I talk about it a lot. I mean, the COVID is pretty much compared to the flu and the measles and everything. The only problem is it hit with such force. They didn't have, antidotes for it at the time. So what it is they had to rush the internet. And there's a lot of theories out there why people aren't taking it, this and that. But you hit it on the nose that it's not even about theories. It's about all the shot is that if you do get COVID, your body will develop antibodies to help fight like it does a cold or a flu or anything. And the misconstruction that is out there, especially on the internet, and people for some reason are opening up their mouths and, it's freedom of speech. There are a lot of people out there saying, oh, they got the COVID and he already had the shots. And it's feels, yeah, guys, because if you really listen to the news, because a lot of you don't, they said this is not a cure. This is to help you fight it so you don't end up in the hospital with a ventilator, because if you do go on a ventilator, chances are you're not coming out, right?
Yeah.
And there are people that had the vaccine, both, and there are people that have gotten it that had the vaccine, but you always have to remember that all of us have different immune systems, right? So I exercise a lot. I eat healthy. I run. So by keeping my body in shape, my immune system's higher. Right, I'm in shape more, and I'm building that adrenaline plus a shot. So I'm more likely if I'm in, like even The Rock, for example. The Rock got COVID, and he was good after 2 days, and people are like, oh, it's because he's rich. No, it's because, and you eat healthy, and I can tell that you eat healthy, you take care of yourself, and that would have come. Now, if you don't want to take it, again, it's up to you. Everything is your life, and it's freedom of choice. However, keep consideration if you didn't take it, still wear a mask. Be honest with people, but don't walk around like you did have it, because what if you do have it in your system? It doesn't show up in a test, but you're carrying it. And let's say you give it to a kid and that kid dies. You'll never know that you're the reason for it. So it comes down to, I think everybody should really look out for each other.
Yeah.
I think that's what we should do. And that's why I appreciate guys like you, because at the end of the day, one of the reasons why people get together all the time is because of music. And maybe when this is all over, there'll be kind of like a COVID relief concert like they did when they did comic relief. See where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
And I think it would be great. What do you think about that?
I'm game for anything that moves things forward in a positive way. You know, I find all of this really frustrating because the thing that we all thrive the most on as human beings is kind of the joy of being alive in this world, and all the things that have gotten in the way of the thing that makes life enjoyable. We just need it behind. We need it behind us, but it needs to be responsible and properly taken care of. And you know, so I just can't wait to get the hell out and play. I just finished a 2-week tour. I was on the road.
That's what I wanted to get into. Talk about that.
Yeah, we were just out with Peter Asher and of Peter and Gordon fame, and Kate Taylor, James Taylor's sister, who has a new album out now. And the last album I did with her was Sister Kate 50 years ago. And so it was great. And Albert Lee was playing guitar with us, and we were doing Albert's. It was for 2 weeks, man. I was in heaven, you know, looking out and seeing an audience in front of us. And man, it was a joyous experience. And I have some things coming up. And then in November, the band is supposed to be, our band, The Immediate Family, is supposed to be touring. We'll be in your neck of the woods at that point. So yeah, and so we're, you know, I'm just anxious to do the thing that I love doing the most, and the sooner all this is behind us, the sooner we'll never be normal again, because normal is change now. But whatever the new situation is, it can still be a positive situation, and things will carry over from it. But the most exciting thing for me really is the band, though, that we have, because it's the guys I've been playing with for 50 years, Danny Korchmar and Russ Kunkel and Waddy Wachtel. And then the new squirt in the band is Steve Postel, who I've only known about 15 years. But
only 15, that's it?
Yeah, he's like a newbie on the block. But we are having the best time together. It is a kick-ass rock and roll band of guys that know each other so well, because we have so much history together. And the thing I tell people that I find so interesting about the whole relationship is, when I think about groups like CSN, the Eagles, the Everly Brothers, there was always conflict. You know, they worked, but the minute they were done working, they didn't want to see each other. And man, we've been together, like I said, a half a century, and we love each other. We've never had a fight. We never had an argument. We have not disagreements, but everybody's opinionated about what we do, but we treat it all as a democracy, and we talk about things and work it all out. And we are just so excited to get out and just, building the brand, because everybody kind of knows who we are individually, but they don't know who the immediate family is. And so at this point now, we're working really hard at just creating the brand for ourselves.
And that's what I love. So your music, what's the inspiration behind the rock and roll? Is there any feel that we should know about some of the music that you're playing now?
I think really it's everybody's, upbringing in this. I mean, like certainly Waddy has always been, he's like been a Stones guy. He was in the expensive winos with Keith Richards, and Cooch has always been like a blues, funk, rock and roll guy at heart. Russ and I have played everything there is to play, but I know when I go back and I'm listening to a lot of stuff, I listen to classic rock. I still listen to Cream and Hendrix and all that. So to have just this band where for the first time pretty much in our careers, we're not having to deal with an artist. We are the artist. So things that we can make decisions for ourselves that somebody else wouldn't come in and put the kibosh on and go, well, I like that, but that's not for me. We can do exactly what we want. And everybody that's heard the band just goes, oh man, this is really amazing. We've got a new single that just came out, Fair Warning. The video for it's incredible, which is going to be released soon. And during the entire pandemic, we were releasing a cappella videos, EPs, just keeping things going. But now finally the album's coming out. Right. And we're really excited about that. So, things are difficult right now from a standpoint of a societal situation, but things are also really enjoyable from, finding things that are helping to guide us through this. The thing I've looked at through this whole year is, what can I do to put a smile on people's faces and make them, feel better about this? And the clubhouse that we just finished is like that. It's become the most remarkable community of people. And when we do the live stream, I'm sitting there like this, but I've got a chat window. These people are they've all become part of each other's lives, and they're looking out for each other and curious about how everybody's doing. And it's really kind of thrilling to see this evolve during such a dark and difficult time for everybody.
Of course. Now, a couple of things while we're talking about that. The YouTube that you have is the Immediate Family. That's the YouTube channel.
Well, there's two. The Immediate Family, which I would love anybody who's listening to this, just subscribe to the Immediate Family YouTube channel and join us on Facebook, and we're on all the platforms. And then my thing is just Leland Sklar on YouTube. Okay. And they're welcome to come to both, because they're both different. But we have a lot of content on the band one now. We've been building content, and we started a thing called TIFF Talk, the Immediate Family Talk, and we're filming Zooms between all of ourselves and just talking about all kinds of crap, and people seem to be finding it a lot of fun. So
of course. And then your Clubhouse, what's the channel on that as well? So just to let a lot of people here know.
Yeah, the Clubhouse is on every one of my videos on YouTube. There's links there. There's links to getting the book, and there's links to the Clubhouse. And then there's if anybody wants to send me any crap or anything like that, I've got a P.O. box listed on there, and I've got some stool samples and blood samples available. You never know what people need nowadays.
Oh, I'm signing up for the stool sample, man. Can you do me a favor? Could you gift wrap it like a Tootsie Roll box, so I can just send it to somebody's gift to be like, yeah, listen, it's a Tootsie Roll, but it's a little nutty. And
I'll tell you what. I'll put it in this. A Tiffany bag for you. You never know what they'll think when they pop that little nugget out.
Wow, that would be such a commercial for the Super Bowl.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a new thing. So, Leland, you perform with so many great people, and I think people really need to understand that you've been a part of a lot of great bands, but one of the things that you were also a freelance artist as well. Now, being a freelance artist, and people don't get, there is a greatness to being a freelance artist, like a Kenny Aronoff, right? And, like a Scott Page, even though he's part of Floyd, he freelanced. It allowed you to develop your skills to work with so many greats, right? And it always kept you working, which is even better. We all know the Phil Collins, Leonard Rondstadt. Do you have a story that can tip off your mind? It was one of your most favorite times being on stage that you'll never, ever forget. I mean, there's so many, but it's just something that just right off the bat.
I'll tell you, one of the most moving experiences I ever had was we did, with James Taylor, we did the first Rock in Rio festival down in Brazil. Well, we came back after that to do a full tour of Brazil. And when we were playing a soccer stadium in Sao Paulo, and when we played the song "Only a Dream in Rio," people in the audience started flicking. They didn't have cell phones, so they were flicking the lighters. But the place was like 100,000 people, and with the delay of the sound from the stage, you looked out, and it was like waves of fire going the whole length of the stadium. They were flicking on the beat. And we almost stopped playing. It was so moving to see this display in front of it. It was like seeing the Wave for the first time in a stadium, and you go, what the hell did I just see? And everybody's, doing their thing. This was really deep. We were all really so moved by it. But I'll tell you, one of the other greatest moments for me, and it happens consistently every time we did it, was when I would be on tour with Phil Collins, whenever we played In the Air Tonight. And the anticipation in the audience for that drum fill was so palpable every night. You could feel the tension in either the concert hall, the stadium, or the arena, whatever the format was, as it built towards that. And then all of a sudden that drum fill would hit, and you'd see arms going up. And before, a lot of security people brought drumsticks, and they were playing air drums. But Daryl Sturmer and I would look at each other every night. I get goosebumps just thinking about it right now. It was deep. But, things like studio projects, like I did Spectrum with Billy Cobham back in '73, which was one of the seminal jazz fusion albums of the period. And we were in New York at Electric Lady and did basically the whole record pretty much in 2 days. And I look back on that, and it was still one of my all-time favorite experiences in the studio, because we had just come off of the road with our group, The Section, opening for Mahavishnu Orchestra. So I became friends with all the guys in Billy at that point, and he had said, "You want to come to New York and work on my album?" I said, "Man, I would love to." And I get there, and the great Tommy Bolin was playing guitar, and one of the greatest guitar players of all time. And when I was in the late 60s in a band called Wolfgang here in LA, Tommy was in a band called Zephyr, and we were both managed basically by the same criminal. So we were going through the same stuff. And so when I walked in the studio at Electric Lady and I saw Tommy, it was like old home week, and it was magic. But I have so many great memories of this business. This has been a really, it was like on the Saturday Night Live skit, I think it was Garrett Morris would go, baseball been very, very good to me. Music for me has been that same way. It's been a really wonderful life. The relationships with musicians and artists and all the people involved with it is something I will cherish till my last breath.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're somebody that can easily do a documentary because you have so many stories and experiences with different people. I would love to see something like that on like a Prime or Netflix, because I think it's really interesting. I'm sure a lot of your colleagues, like Phil Collins, would contribute to it.
Yeah.
You can just call it Sklar. I mean, your last name, it sounds like a consolation, to be honest with you. So I think it's like a cool name to do something like that. I think it would. You want to know a good
Sklar story?
I would love to hear.
You can edit this. You can edit this out if you need
to. And I edit, so I may just leave this whole thing. So bring it on. Talk about it.
One of my favorite artists that I work with her name is Judith Owen. She's married to Harry Shearer from Spinal Tap and Simpsons and all that. Judith is a fabulous Welsh singer, songwriter, pianist. We were on tour over in the UK, and in every town in the UK there's a BBC studio, it seems. And so we were going and doing interviews all the time we were on the road. I forget what town it was, but we went in to do this interview with this girl who had no clue who the hell we were. She had not prepared anything, didn't know who Judith was, really didn't know who I was. But for some reason, so we're kind of sitting in this uncomfortable situation, and she finally goes, "Sklar, that's an interesting name. Where does it come from?" And I said, "Well, my father's side of the family, it came from Odessa in the Ukraine." And but I said, "Sklar actually means the same thing in Scandinavia, in Finland, and Sweden." And I said, "Sklar actually means glass blower." And she goes, "Glass blower? Have you ever blown any glass?" And I said, "Only Philip." And I looked over, and Judith had snot running out of her nose. She was laughing so hard. And this girl had no clue what I had just said on it. But that's my Sklar story.
That is an awesome story. And I want to touch on that. I hate, and I see it happen a lot, people don't do their research on their guests, which I don't even understand. It's like, why then why do the interview? Like, they're taking their time to talk to you. At least know who you're talking to. And if you're not sure, you know what you do? You take a half an hour, or at least get some notes involved, something to make them seem like you know everything about them. But I definitely, and you could tell by this interview that you just had, not only did she not know who you are, she was obviously somewhere else because she didn't even get the joke. So it's like, why are we here?
Well, the thing is, man, Google. Jesus, we live in this time now. You can find out anything. So you just take, 5 minutes and get a couple of talking points, because the interview is probably only going to be like 10 minutes or something like that with them. So you just have a couple of little questions to ask, and everybody will leave feeling you've accomplished something. But we're just sitting there. I'm sitting there feeling my beard grow. It's like, come on, babe.
This is like a shrine you got going on here. Now, I have to ask, and I'm sure millions of people ask, I have a beard, but I keep it like GQ because my people say I'll just leave it. But you have a beard that stands the test of time, right? Where I'm sure you get compared to Father Time. Hey,
Gandalf,
top, all that stuff. But was there a real reason, like a really reason why? Because the beard looks great, but was there a reason why you decided to grow it that long? Was it just something you did and said, screw it, you know what? I'm done.
I'm done shaving. When I graduated high school in '65, and at that time out here in LA, it was not cool. You could not have facial hair in school or long hair or anything like that. And when they handed me my high school diploma, I said, fuck this shit. I am done. and just let it grow. But out of that came a great moment. One of my oldest relationships in the music business is with a guy named Dan Dugmore, who played with James Taylor for years, and Linda Ronstadt. He's a great guitarist, steel player. Well, we were in a band called the Brimstones in 1966, and we were hired to play at one of the local high school senior proms. And I had been out of high school a year and hadn't shaved or cut my hair. And we arrived to do the gig, and the school principal took one look at me on stage and said, there's no way that guy's going to play on our stage. It was all so conservative. And rather than blowing the gig for all these kids that were waiting to come in and have their dance, I just took my cord and I ran it behind the curtain on the stage, and I played the whole show from behind the curtain. I was like the invisible bass player. But, I just never cared about it. And, it's sort of like once you let it grow, it just sort of stayed, and it ended up becoming kind of, like I saw some, like people are saying, what do you think about Dusty Hill from ZZ?
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
Well, first off, it breaks my heart because I love ZZ and I love Dusty, and it broke my heart when he died. And Billy's a good friend of mine. And I follow the same path. I just kind of, it's there. And I don't really think about it. And but I get all that stuff every day of going, oh, he's a wizard. It's Gandalf. It's this and that, And I go, that's cool. I walk through airports and stuff, man. I get, I'm in a unique situation because I'm recognizable, but I'm a side man. I'm not a star. So people come up to me and they feel a sense of familiarity. It's not like they would walk up to Phil Collins and be kind of peeing in their pants with nervousness or James Taylor and shaking. They come up and they go, oh man, I saw you at, such and such gig, man. You guys were great. You're like the soundtrack of my life kind of thing. And it's a real comfortable relationship I have with fans, if you're going to call it that. I get on great with people, and nobody comes up acting like weird, like they don't know what to say to you. They come up and they just go, "Oh, didn't you play with Phil Collins, or didn't you play with so and so?" And I go, "Yeah." And they go, "Oh God, I saw you in Berkeley at the Community Theater. Man, that was a great show." And we have a dialogue, and then it's over, and we move on.
Yeah, and I think it's because, honestly, your look has so many different varieties to it from famous people of the decades. You have that comfortable look. You have that approachable look where this guy can't be mean. He's got the coolest beard ever. And I'm sure you had a kid go up to you and ask you, like, can I get this for Christmas and all that other funny stuff. And that's why you have an approachable look. And the crazy thing is this is your calling card, because if you ever shaped it, I don't think anybody even know who you are.
Oh, no.
You know? So
Yeah.
it's kind of like you're kind of like obligated to leave it now, because unless one day you decided, okay, I'm done, but it's very weird for me to hear a musician retire from music, because that's the one job, which is not even a job,
Yeah.
that you could do the rest of your life. And if people don't believe me, go check out the Stones touring at 79 years old and selling out the damn place
Yeah.
whenever they want. Now, speaking, you were talking about BBC. I've never asked this question. I know when you're touring around the country, you know, and you're a popular celebrity, you're expecting great fans from around. How is the feeling, which has got to be a little weird when you go overseas, right? Because you're from the U.S., you're expecting people to know you. Is it a really weird feeling? You go to the overseas to like India or China or Europe, and people know who you are, and they're just as excited or even more than from your hometown. How weird is that for you when you step off a plane and everybody knows who you are?
It's really weird because in my heart of hearts, I'm still kind of this dorky guy from the San Fernando Valley where I grew up, you know, so I don't really see celebrity in that, but it's interesting, you know, when you end up going overseas and I'm in Japan or wherever, and people go, oh, Renowned Sklar, you know, and you go, yeah, but it's a real comfortable thing, because those people are not feeling strange about talking to you, and I find it just interesting, and I've really cultivated great friendships with people all over the world. And one thing that's like in the old days when we would tour, like with James Taylor, we would play like the Blossom Music Center or any of the big sheds for the summer, Pine Knob up in Detroit. Mm-hmm. And when the band was like waiting for showtime, they would all be like hanging out in the dressing room waiting for the show. I would go out and walk on the lawn and talk to people, sit on their blankets and meet them, have a piece of fried chicken, and just, you know, so I've managed to create a whole bunch of friendships over the years that have sustained throughout this whole time. And I'm real appreciative every day. I pinch myself every day and think how, I don't think I'm lucky because I've worked my ass off at what I do, but I feel fortunate because I also know a lot of guys and girls who are great musicians that haven't had the right opportunities. I was in a perfect storm situation where when I was in this band, Wolfgang, our drummer, his name was Bugs Pemberton, and he was an English drummer. He was a member of Jackie Lomax and the Undertakers in England, and Jackie was pretty much a rival to the Beatles in those days. And he was like a matinee idol. So Bugs had a friend named John Fishbeck out here in Los Angeles who owned a studio called Crystal Recording Studio, and he did all of the early Stevie Wonder records, Songs in the Key of Life, and all that. And he used to come and hang out at our rehearsals at once in a while. And at one of our rehearsals, he showed up with a friend of his who had just gotten back from England. It was James Taylor. And so James was hanging out. I was still in college, and I was in this band, Wolfgang. Well, James got offered a gig at the Troubadour, and one of his oldest friends was Danny Korchmar. So Cooch was in the band. They had hooked up with Russ Kunkel, so Russ Kunkel was in his band, and the keyboard player in the band was Carole King. But they needed a bass player. And James said, I was at this rehearsal, and he remembered me from this rehearsal, and they tracked me down. And I thought I was going to be doing one gig with the guy, and it turned into being the rest of my life. So, you know, it was a perfect storm that happened. And that's one of the things where I always tell people, I said, if possible, never say no. Right. You know, I mean, you might go to do something and it might kind of suck, but somebody might be there that can hear you, that might have something that can help you. And so for me, it was, you know, because I knew lots of great musicians, and for some reason that door opened for me and I jumped in it. And I walked out of school after 5 years of college without a degree, hit the road, and I'm still at it.
You're amazing at it. Now, the other question I would like to ask is, there are some great bass players out there. You got Norwood Fisher from Fishbone. You have the bass player from Primus, who was my all-time
Les
favorite.
Claypool.
When I used to go to Lollapalooza, my name was Mud. Killer bass solo when he started that. So I had all the instruments growing up, drums, trumpets, all this stuff. What honestly inspired you to get into the bass? Because was the bass actually a really popular instrument back in the late 50s, or 60s, obviously, when you started playing it, or was it something where you wanted to really critique that instrument and make it more of a popular thing?
It was an accident. What happened was when I was going on 5 years old, my parents used to watch the Liberace TV show. And as a little kid, I was enamored with it. The panache of him at the piano with his candelabra and this beautiful piano music. At 5, I started studying piano. And I actually was the proverbial sort of child prodigy. By the time I was 8, I had won awards from the Hollywood Bowl Association and different things. I kind of assumed I was a classical. I was studying classical music. When I went into junior high school, I was 12 years old, and I assumed I was going to be playing piano in the orchestra and all that stuff. And first off, one of the greatest things that can happen in one's life is to have great teachers. And we had a great music teacher when I went into junior high school, and his name was Ted Lynn. And he said, look, we got a whole bunch of piano players. We need a string bass player. And he pulled out an old K upright out of the back room and showed me how to hold it. And I plucked one note on that and felt that vibration. And I said, count me in. And he gave me some rudimentary lessons on it. And next thing I know, I've got regular teachers, and the piano fell by the wayside. And I just totally focused on bass. And it was a few years I was playing classical and jazz. And things for me really, like almost every other musician I can imagine, the Beatles changed everything for us. And the thing that it required me to do at that point was really get an electric bass, because I had only been playing upright, and you start playing with bands at that point who have drums and electric guitar and keys. Next thing you know, you are just flogging your hands trying to be heard. So my dad took me to this music store, Stein on Vine, and bought me a melody bass and a St. George amplifier, and I was off and running. And that's kind of it. So the bass came to me. Had they wanted me to, be the pianist in it, I might never have played bass. I might have just stayed with piano. But I was ready for a change at that point, and I was forever grateful. And I managed to hook up with Mr. Lynn before he passed away, and he's one of the closing pictures in my finger book.
Really?
I give a dedication to him, and he's flipping me off. So it's.
And I'm glad you brought that up with your music teacher, because I think music teachers are probably one of the most underrated jobs out there. They're music teachers, and I don't know if you ever caught this movie. Henry Winkler was in it, and the guy from King and Queens. I completely forgot the name.
Yeah, I know the one you mean.
And I loved the movie because it was a true story about a guy who decided to fight in the UFC to save the music department, because that movie really touched on how important music is to a lot of kids growing up. And it never got the validation how music is a huge part of people's lives. And people forget about that. We think about when we get older, right? Like, we listen to music all the time when we're working and listen to music, and we always drive and listen to music. But then we never stop and think like, wow, I had a music teacher that dedicated his life to really in tuning us with the great voices of a Frank Sinatra and the playing of a Miles Davis, and we never just really took advantage of that.
Yeah.
And in your book, I mean, do you ever sometimes just want to bring your music teacher out on stage and be like, listen, because of this guy right here, this is why I'm here.
Every interview I've practically ever done, I give him a shout out. He passed away a number of years ago, and but when I would do articles for Bass Player magazine and different things like that, I would always cite him and other teachers. I mean, to me, a great teacher can change your life, and it's really sad to see, what so many teachers have to go through just to, sustain their curriculums. They have to go out and buy supplies for their students because the school's not supplying what they need and all that stuff. But they're really important, and I'm forever grateful to. And that's one of the reasons I really like with my YouTube thing. I'm really trying to pass on information because I've been asked for years, do a book. And it really never interested me to do like a book, but I'm kind of doing like a living book by doing the YouTube thing. And a lot of people just keep going, oh man, it's like a master class hearing so many of these things. And any information I can pass on, it's like I saw somebody wrote on here, it's still up there from Bob, where he said, where did you learn to write charts? Well, all through school. I mean, we were studying theory and composition and all that stuff. I mean, it wasn't just playing. It was, you were learning all the bare bones of what music's all about. I'm not good at it. I can get away with what I need to do for myself, where I know people that write charts that are, like illuminated manuscripts that are so good. So,
well, you know what? I mean, I don't know if you're doing it now. One of the things I'm learning as I grow with the show is if you put an email on your YouTube, I don't know if you're doing it on everything, and listen, if you have any questions, feel free to email us. And I think what they'll do is it will engage your audience more, and more people are going to go onto it, because now you're answering questions from your fans on top of giving them knowledge on everything else. And I think it may help a lot of young kids too, because somebody may ask you something about how to play a chord or how to riff into this, and you may have the knowledge to answer that question. You know what happens? You just gain a subscriber and maybe 10 based on giving out knowledge. I think would be even better for YouTube. I don't even know if
I'm like you're doing. You're building. You've built your channel, and it's a constantly developing thing. And I'm kind of doing the same, because I went into this not knowing anything about what I was doing. And but I've got, like, with each video, there's a chat windows, and I get lots of questions are written in that, and I respond on that. If I gave out, my time is so slammed most of the time that if I opened up with, answering emails, I would be spending half my day sitting here. But when any time anybody poses questions to me, like on any of the chat windows or any of that kind of stuff, I'm happy to respond to them and give them whatever information I possibly can, because I think, I mean, I'll be going on 75. I'm 74 now, turned 74 in May.
Oh, man, you don't get there over 20, man. Like, I tell people, that's how salt and pepper look. Don't get it twisted. Ladies, you can call this guy 21 and older. You're still kicking it. You got it.
But it's one of those things that you get to this point in your life and you think this is a great time to pass on what you know. And I mean, I'm hopeful. I've got, there's longevity in my family line, so I'm too ornery to leave at this point. I got too many people yet to piss off, so I'm going to stick around for a while. But I think it's important to pass on whatever you can, no matter what the medium is. I think it's beholding to us to share knowledge and make maybe the journey for, like, the next group of players is going to be very different than the one I had, because the world is so dramatically different than it was when I started. So a lot of things that I could talk about they really don't have any resemblance of reality at this point in time. But there are certain things that really are still the same. And it's certainly when you get in and start talking about work ethics and how you approach your job, I'm happy to talk to people about that, because a lot of people, they see stories or they read the wrong stuff, and they really can if the opportunity comes to go into this business, chances are you might get one or two shots at it, and if you blow it, there's 10,000 people behind you waiting for that same opportunity. So you want to let people know, if you get a shot to do this, here's really the best way to approach it. And there's just a lot of things like that I think are important to pass along.
Yeah, and I'm loving how you're talking about this at the end of this interview. I think it's amazing. So as we're wrapping up, and that's such great advice to tell people. I always ask people for advice. That's perfect advice to tell people. we already talked about, your band that you're working on now. Give people an idea where you're going to be within the year, where you're touring to, and do you have anything else coming out with some other celebrities that you're about to get on that people should know about?
The band, The Immediate Family, we are going to be working most of November if things don't get all screwed up from COVID. We just don't know yet, but we have it all in the book. We start with a West Coast tour, and then we head east to New York and the surrounding states. And I haven't seen the exact schedule. So we're doing that. I think in October, I'm going up to Berkeley to do a thing. One of my favorite artists to work with is Van Dyke Parks, who has been around forever. He's an amazing cat. And he and Grant Geisman, who's a great guitarist, the three of us are doing a trio gig up there. But things are being planned, but everything's being it's all tenuous at this point because you think things are opening up and then then they're suddenly backing down on it because of, maybe there's a new outbreak or a new variant has come and they're holding off. So I'm just going to, if people want to know what's going on, just come to my Facebook page or any of that, or Twitter, or or join me on the YouTube thing. Come join the clubhouse. It's a great bunch of people and all that. But that's where most of the information is, because everything seems to be kind of always in flux until things get better. I mean, I've been bailing on some things that just aren't looking safe and all that. It's a difficult period for everybody.
And it's understandable. I mean, like you said, you're 75, so you really have to be consistent with your health, and you have to look out for it. And if you guys want Leland Sklar being around for the next 20 years, he's going to have to balance some events to keep himself healthy. And I think, on behalf of myself and everybody on here, first of all, thank you for spreading your knowledge on what you did on this interview. I think we learned a lot. Your interview, full episode, will be available at FaceTime with Todd Wharton on YouTube tomorrow night. I'm a very good editor. I'm going to quickly get all this done. Hopefully you like the promo I did for you, because I did that one yesterday, and those things are kind of cool. And it'll be up tomorrow night. I'll send you the link, and Eileen as well. I'll send it to you on Instagram. Just accept my request, and I can send it to you on a message. And so, guys, I hope you enjoyed listening to Leland Sklar. The guy that created his name, and he blew you a glass, blah, 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 and all that stuff. And we appreciate you, man. I know. And hopefully when I get my studio audience, I don't foresee me going back anytime soon this year, but when I do, I would love to have you on, even talk about having your band on. I think it would be great to have you guys do a live performance. And until then, man, be healthy, be safe. Thank you for being on FaceTime with Todd Wharton, brother. And I'm going to speak to you soon, all right?
Thank you, my brother.
So first of all, Leland, thank you for being a guest on FaceTime with Todd Wharton. Such a pleasure to finally get to meet you, and congratulations, and thank you for all the music that you've been putting out for the past 40 to 50 years, pretty much. Great music, and we all appreciate you, and thank you for all the knowledge that you've given back to all the artists in all the art communities. I'm sure they appreciate it. I know I appreciate it when guys like you constantly give back, and we need more people like you to do that. So thank you for doing that. And thank you to my live virtual audience for tuning in and always supporting FaceTime with Todd Wharton. Now tomorrow night, definitely tune in. I have a great director. You know him from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He's also directed Power Rangers movie. Kind of said movie. Power Rangers movie. And he's one of the most sought out stuntmen in Hollywood today. My man John Stewart's going to be in the house, who's also a musician with the group Juliana. I'm losing my lips right now. Musician with Juliana. Okay, Latin band. So guys, tune in tomorrow night. We'll have a great time. And until then, be safe, stay healthy. And if you're not living a passionate life, then whose life are you living? Take care, everybody. Have a great night.
He is the most interesting man in the world.
I'm not always on YouTube, but when I am, I make sure I'm subscribed to FaceTime with Todd Wharton. Be thirsty, my friends.